Yeah, how's it going, guys? It's Richard Unicorn Caller here, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We are back, and today, for one of the rare reasons, we're doing a healing build, but specifically for console players and PC players, and specifically for low levels. So this is going to be, at least in my opinion, for low levels around below level 90 stuff, right? So not level 100, not level 170. This is just kind of, I wouldn't say near the end of the game, but again, around that level 90 level. And actually, we actually have a cool guide here. It is from Final Bastion. They actually have this really interesting high level outgoing. I'm going to leave this dropped in the description so you guys can look at it for yourself. It hasn't been updated since like 2022, I believe, but it is like a pretty useful source of information about where to find some of the gear and all that stuff. So we'll basically be going off of this and at least showing y'all how I did it back in the day as a level 90 wizard. So without further ado, let's check it out, because a lot of stuff has changed in the game over time. I mean, it's been a very long time, but we'll just start off a little bit simple. Mainly some of the stuff is going to be in Tartarus, some of it might be in a wooden chest, but we're going to go over it. Now, the one thing, the health, you don't want to look at least for me, because I'm a level 170, so the health is going to vary depending on your own level. So, let's start off with the hat first, and we just have something basic. The Poseidon's Brim of Ardor. Now, this is going to give you 400 health, and specifically for life, and it's also going to give you a 10% pip chance, 2 pierce, and 9% incoming healing. Which, by the way, incoming is basically how much health you're going to receive in. That's basically a health boost is what you see. A 2% life accuracy, then 105 life critical, which is pretty good, and then 16 life damage, and then 10% outgoing, which is pretty cool, right? Now you can get this from Tartarus, and actually not Tartarus, yeah, Poseidon in Tartarus. So it's actually a pretty good piece of gear. Now, obviously, a lot of people in the comments will just say, Richard, you don't need all of this. Just farm Waterworks, keep Waterworks until Darkmoor, and then just farm Darkmoor for the entire game. And that's pretty much it. But like I said, this is my own build. At least this is some of the stuff I used back in the day. If you just want to get Waterworks, that is completely fine too. For some reason, I never liked Waterworks. I think I had like bad memories of Waterworks. But yes, you can get this hat in Tartarus, and those bosses actually do respawn, at least Poseidon and I believe like Zeus or something. If you just like back out and then go back in the door, they respawn. I don't know if that's gonna happen in the Wizard101 console version. I know it does it for PC, but I would imagine it might work the same. But yeah, it's a pretty good hat to go for. If you're in the level 90 range, just check out Tartarus. Maybe you'll get lucky and get it on your first try. And if not, don't worry about it. You can definitely just go to Waterworks or use pretty much anything else. And like I said, we're going for like level 90 stuff and below. Pretty cool stuff. Now, the robe is pretty interesting as well, because this is the Zeus War Eagle raiment, which again, you can find this in Tartarus. It's a pretty good robe, I'm not gonna lie, it has some pretty decent stats. So you'll get 605 max health, you get 10% pip chance, 4 pierce, 25 death resist, which is a lot of resist for one skull. 3% life accuracy, 77 life critical, 22 life damage, and 20% outgoing. And again, there's a level 90 robe that you can get all the way in Tartarus. So those are two things that you can look out for if you're ever farming for that specific boss or if you're doing that dungeon. And again, it's really good. Once you have it, it's really nice to have. I think the only reason why I'm making this video is when you do get to Darkmoor, you're going to have a lot of these pesky storm wizards that get one-shot a lot, and they're going to ask you for healing. So again, I love it. But yeah, you can get this from Zeus and Tartarus, and like I said, you can kind of respawn them in if you're lucky. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. I like Tartarus. It's a pretty fun dungeon. But don't worry, it's not going to be all Tartars. There's going to be some other stuff. Over here, we got the Zeus Striders of Vitality. Now, this one's pretty awesome. You get 240 max health. You get 8% pip chance. You get 7 pierce. You get 25 death resistance, which is also another big one. 4% life accuracy. 14 life damage. And then 15 outgoing. Now, as a reminder, the outgoing is how much healing you're going to be giving out to players, right? So you got your outgoing, and then you got your incoming. So 28 myth resist is also pretty cool. Now, for this one, you can get it by Zeus in Tartarus again. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, you get this from Zeus. So, yeah, this is pretty interesting. All 3 of these pieces are from Tartarus. Pretty cool stuff. I could have sworn I had one specifically from Atlantia, but I guess not. So all 3 of these pieces, if you get lucky and you come across them in Tartarus, then yeah, you'll have fun with it. All right, let's talk about the wand now. The wand is interesting. You can really go with a lot of items with it. We have the OG Sword of Kings. I'm sure some of you guys know this, but it will give you 1% pip chance, or starting pip, 31 critical, and then 1 pierce, and then 25 outgoing, which is a lot of outgoing. Now, this is a level 76 wand that you can get in Avalon. Specifically, you can get this through one of the quests. Actually, let me look at the other page right now to just show you exactly. You might already have this if you completed Avalon. I'm pretty sure it's like near the last quest of it. Obtainable from the head of the dragon quest in the Keep of Galleon. Yeah, the Keep of Galleon. Check that out. I don't know if that's the last dungeon of Avalon, but it's in one of the dungeons. Like one of the main quest dungeons. You just get it for free. So, pretty cool wand. Has a high outgoing, a little bit of critical, and some wand hits. So, yeah, pretty cool in my opinion. But again, that might be up to you, because when it comes to wands, there's really a lot of stuff you could do. Another alternative is the Root of Spring. I didn't include it in this build because it's a level 95, and some people might not want to craft it. This is kind of more so of like farming gear instead of crafting stuff. Now, this is a very versatile wand. It's going to come with less outgoing and no critical whatsoever, but it has a make cast rebirth spell, which is really, really cool. But again, that's a level 95. You gotta go through Chrysalis. And again, that's all up to your own preference. Maybe I'll make a separate build concerning this wand, but yeah, it's pretty nice to have. Alright, now over here we got the Athames. Now, man, the Athames, man. If you're talking about the Dark Woman's Dagger, that is a retired type of item, meaning that the variation of it is completely different. Unfortunately, console players, you guys are a couple of years late. But for this, we're just going to do the Wolf's Emerald Talon. All you gotta do is just go to the bazaar, and you can basically just buy it. For console, it might be different, because, again, there's a lot of new players. But you can also farm Asric Wide Belt in Vestrland. I believe that's in Grizzleheim. Don't quote me on that. You can also go for the Cosmic Chris, which is a level 58. You can buy that from the bazaar, where you can farm a boss in the Crustacean Empire, specifically Aegis. And again, I'll switch over to this website so you can see specifically where you could get it. And you'll see that it has a Dark Woman's Dagger, but that doesn't drop anymore. It still drops, but they change the stats over time. So it's like a completely different Atham. It doesn't even have outgoing anymore. So yeah, it was a whole thing. A lot of people were pissed, including me. I was pretty upset about it, but it is what it is. We actually are getting a pretty good healing Athame in the Wizard101 Darkmoor update, which I talked about in a previous video, which is actually a direct upgrade to the Dark Woman's Dagger. So, be on the lookout for that in a future video. But, in my opinion, if you're a low level, just use like the Wolf's Emerald Talon, or use the Cosmic Chris. Those are pretty good outgoing Athames to have. But again, you can use whatever gear you want, whatever is going to fit your playstyle. Alright, now let's go for the amulets. Amulets, again, it's all up to your own playstyle. We have the Jewel of the Virtuous Soul. Now, this one is tricky. By the way, let me go back to the jeweling part, the jewels. If you have any mending jewels, like 1%, 2%, or even 3%, you can slot those in because those are going to be circle sockets. But if you don't, then you can just slap on whatever you want. There's not really that many good jewels at a low level kind of standpoint. When you level up, you're going to find a lot more. Over here for the amulet, you got the Jewel of the Virtuous Soul. This one is tricky to get. If you cannot get this amulet, that is completely fine. Just use any other double square socket amulet or any type of item card amulet. And it's going to give you 115 health, 2% outgoing subset, and then also these 2 square sockets. I just put the Arc Mastery ones, which you can buy in the Wizard City shopping district in the Jewel Vendor shop, just to help out with your Arc Mastery if you really wanted that. And it actually comes with 2 item cards. Pretty interesting stuff. So it comes with a Guiding Light, which is at plus 35%. And then it also comes with a Rebirth item card as well, which is at 730 healing and then at 450 Absorb Shield on all your allies. So pretty cool stuff right there. And you can get this specifically in the lower zigzag. It's dropped from the wood chest. Again, it's going to depend on if you want to get this or not. I might not recommend you get this just because it might take a couple wooden keys to get it. But if you do get it, it's a pretty nice amulet to have if you're trying to maximize your outgoing, right? And there's not really that many options, at least from what I know from a low-level standpoint. You could get a Mastery Amulet if you're someone that's off-schooling. And you probably get that from Waterworks. So if you farm a little bit of Waterworks, you might get that Mastery Amulet for life, and then you can use life spells, right? Or you could rely on School Pips. But I think around that level, you're not really going to be getting School Pips too much. It also might depend on your stats and whatnot. But yeah, pretty cool stuff right here. Now the ring. I've seen a lot of comments about the ring over many, many years. And still, it's undefeated. Stop telling me it's the Ring of the Undying Star. It's the Seal of the 5th Column. No. It is this. Stone of the Other Side. You can get this dropped from a lot of bosses and enemies in Avalon, Pendragon, Black Knight, and others. Pretty nice ring to have. 242 health, 176 mana, 12% pip chance, and 15 critical block, and then 33% outgoing, which is pretty nice. You also get a tier socket, a circle socket, and a square socket. Now, if you're lucky, or at least in a high level sense, you can put that square socket for a plus 8%. And then, again, for that circle socket, you can also put an outgoing mending jewel as well. Now, the reason why this ring outmatches them all is because the base outgoing is to the point where you can combine that with the other, like, jewels, and that will give you, like, a maximum amount of outgoing. Now, you have stuff like the Ring of the Undying Star, right? That is at 35%, right? And you might think, like, oh, okay, well, why don't you just use that? Again, it only comes with 1 jewel socket. So, you might prefer to use the Stone of the Other Side. But either or works. But for my healing build, especially in the higher levels, I use the Stone of the Other Side just because that's how I've been. I actually have a high level version right here. So, 2 8%, right? If I were to use the Ring of the Dying Star, it's only going to give me that one. Another reason, it's a level 98, so it's kind of like a high level item. Not really in our bracket. But if you want to go for it, go for it. There's also the Seal of the 5th Column. You can also try that. But I think the Stone of the Other Side is a way easier ring to get. I would recommend that. Alright, so let's talk about pets. For console players, pets are a little tricky because you guys started from scratch. So pet making is going to take some time to kind of, you know, figure out. I kind of wish that the devs like put in custom made pets that they put in the kiosk, so that way people could get started on pet making. But this will definitely depend on, you know, before I start, I have to check something out, because I have a Dryad pet with Spell Proof, Spell Defy, May Cast Legion Shield, May Cast Unicorn, right? And then I have the plus 8% for the Medic. You obviously want to go for either Healer or Medic, just because you don't really have that much to go off of. And specifically for the Dryad pet, don't quote me on this, I believe this is around like level 80 to get if you're a life wizard. If you're not a life wizard, just go to the kiosk and try to make the best pet you can. But there's really a lot of options that you could go off of. The reason I use the Dryad pet is because it comes with some pretty cool item cards. I can show you right now. But over here, we have the Hammer Dryad, which is an 800 base healing off of all your allies. And then it also removes a heal, not a heal, but a damage over time, right? Like a fire elf or whatever. It will remove 1 tick off of everybody, right? Pretty cool stuff. It also comes with Sprite Swarm, which is also pretty cool. And it also comes with a Life Blade. But, again, you can check out the kiosk and find anything that suits your own fancy. I also have a plus 6% life accuracy jewel in here just to make sure that I have some life accuracy. But that will depend on, again, whatever is going to suit you the best. I'm actually going to Google the Life Dryad real quick just to actually see when you get that as a life wizard. Let me see. Not the spell. We want the pet. We just want the pet. Wiki. We just want the pet. Here it is. Let me see exactly when you get this spell. Oh, yeah. It's rewarded from a quest level 98. Yeah. But, if you see a Dryad in the kiosk, you can still hatch for it. I don't even think you gotta be a level 98. But you will get your own Dryad pet around level 98. I knew it was a high level type of pet, but it's such a good pet though. It's such a good pet. You can choose whatever pet you want, honestly. It doesn't really matter. Hey, even go for a life bat. Even a life bat might be viable. Who knows? Alright, so let's go to the mount. No mounts. I'm not putting any mounts here. You could go for the Mammoth Mini. That's a high level item, or you can buy that in the Crown Shop. However, I think they took that out in the Crown Shop ages ago. So if you're someone on PC or console, just run with whatever mount that you have that you're, comfortable with. If you have an accuracy mount from a bundle or a damage mount, go with whatever you want. But there really isn't that much options concerning mounts, so I'm skipping that. Okay, for the deck, it can be any deck. Only one I found in the bazaar was like a level 73 deck, and it had a tier socket. Again, you use whatever you want for that. It really depends on your playstyle and what you have available. You probably will already have a good enough deck whenever you level up or whenever you're farming. But, it's kind of like, I don't know, like, you could go for a square socket or even a circle socket, and then you can put a mending pin on that. But I checked the bazaar and I couldn't really find much. So just look at the bazaar for that, and you should be good. But I don't really have much preference on the deck. Now, when you level up, you're going to get some better ones, right? You're going to get better ones. Alright. Let's talk about the spell deck. Now, this rule, sorry I'm a little sniffly. This rule is no lore spellments, no lore spells at all, basically. No paid for type of item. I want all these spells that you can get for free without having to spend an excessive amount of resources, right? And it really depends. Of course, I know a lot of people can say, Richard, put Pigsy in there, but again, a lot of people aren't going to farm for Pigsy. A lot of people might not want to do that. A lot of people might not even want to farm for the packs. And a matter of fact, let me just take a breather real quick, but Wizard101 console actually is missing a few packs. So there's actually a few spells that you can't really get unless you farmed the specific gold key boss for it. So again, it's kind of like, I don't want to put that in the spell deck just because, especially as a life wizard, you don't really need Pixie. Alright, so let's talk about all the stuff that I have. Since you're a life wizard, obviously you want to go for all of your heals, right? You even put in Minor Blessing if you wanted, but for the healing part, we have stuff like Dryad. This is going to be 200 health per pip. So there's an X spell. So however many pips you have, it's going to take all those pips, and then you're going to heal a specific target, right? Now you also have Guardian Spirit, which is part of a level 78 spell quest. I believe it's from Avalon. You have to do a few little prerequisites as well. But basically, if a target is defeated, they regain 15% health after being defeated. Back in the day, you used to get criticals on this, and you used to heal them for like way more than 50%. Obviously, they nerfed that and got rid of that. I usually cast this a lot on Storm Wizards because, like I said, Storm Wizards will be crying for healing. And if you're a life wizard especially, they will be very angry at you if you're not healing them. Speaking of Storm Wizards, they might be fizzling because they don't have the best spells, so maybe throw in some guidance. That will basically give everybody on your team a plus 20% universal accuracy buff to everybody, including yourself, right? It costs 1 pip. You can also put in stuff like Fairy. You can also put in Rebirth as well, which is part of the Rebirth quest. This one's this is a very powerful spell, so don't spam it too much, but I highly recommend it. Now up here, we have the Mega Taunt, which you can get in the Floating Lands and Celestia. This one basically forces the enemies to target you if they have a single target spell. So like, for example, back in the day, you know, taunt spells were really bad. They didn't really do anything. Ever since they changed it, they basically forced the target to now attack you. So if you wanted to draw a little bit of aggro on yourself, this might be a really cool spell to have, especially around a low level, and especially if, again, your Storm Wizard friend is just getting mollywopped, right? You can also put in Regenerate, which is basically going to do a burst heal and then a heal overtime for 5 rounds, which is pretty cool. And you can also put in Sanctuary to actually increase your outgoing, which is actually going to be cool. You can also put in Satyr. You can put in Absorb, which is going to absorb damage, which is called Spirit Armor. You also get Spree Storm, which you can actually farm for if you play the Beast Moon Hunt event. So you can get this completely for free. You don't really got to buy any packs or anything like that. This one basically is a spree, but it heals everybody around you. And it also summons a minion if you have a bomb on yourself, which is pretty cool. So make sure to check that out if you ever do some Beast Moon. Over here, the Pigsy replacement would be Unicorn, which is a 465 buff. Basically, as I say buff, they buffed this spell a while ago. It's really good now. Highly recommend it. You can also get Cycle of Life, which is around level 84. And you can get this around the Azteca level. But basically, it will give you 25 outgoing and then plus 5% pip chance. But you will take 10% incoming increase to the death damage. However, we do have a lot of death resist with this build, so that might not be an issue. Over here, I would also recommend Empowerment, because this will allow you to gain a pip from any rank 4 attack spell. So if you get hit with something like a Centaur, or if you get hit with like a Elephant, you'll basically get a pip for that. A white pip, that's it. Just a single pip. And then, last but not least, as any support player should have, which for some reason, a lot of people do not pack the spell ever in their deck, whether they're attacking, whether they're healing, or supporting. Nobody, for some reason, ever has this spell. And I'm asking you guys, please pack this spell, especially as a support player. Reshuffles, please. This will reshuffle all your cards back into your deck. And you can get this in Colossus Boulevard and Wizard City. Now, unfortunately, if you do have the Arc 1 pass, I believe Colossus Boulevard is not considered mainline, so you will probably have to buy access to it unless there's a free membership. But yes, I highly recommend Reshuffle. It is such a great spell. I really do wish a lot of more people had this spell. And then for the item cards, we just have the stuff from the pets, from the wand, from the amulet. All that stuff will be in your sideboard. For the treasure cards, it doesn't really matter what you put in for your treasure cards. Maybe you might want to put in some blades or traps for the specific school. This is usually where I put most of my buffs at, depending on whatever school I'm playing with. Now, stat-wise, don't look at the health, because that is basically dependent on your own level. But we have 52 damage, we have a little bit of resist at a low level, we have 65 death resist, and we also have 43 myth resist, which is pretty cool. And then universally we have 15 resist all around. So accuracy, we have 16 accuracy. That's going to give us a perfect accuracy for life magic. And that's more the reason why I had to add a life jewel, specifically an accuracy jewel, in order to make sure that I don't fizzle, because fizzling is not fun. I do not like fizzling. Now, the critical rating is at 31 universal and then 213, which is pretty decent. Block rating's at 23, it's kind of low. Armor piercing is at 14%. And then our incoming healing is at 34%, and our outgoing healing is at 142%. That is huge. That's a lot. That is a lot. That's actually a lot of outgoing for this level. Wait, let me check again. I think it's because of the Athame, and then I believe the ring, and then like the hat, the robe, the boots. That's a lot of outgoing. I'm honestly like surprised. I am honestly surprised. Our pip conversion is at 402, but this is also, I believe, dependent on your level, so I wouldn't pay attention to that. Our power pips are at 80%, so we will fail pip eventually, but 80% is still high. Don't look at the shadow rating. Again, that will be dependent. And then the Arc Mastery rating, again, that also might be dependent on your level, but we'll get some bonus Arc Mastery from those little Arc Mastery jewels that you can buy in the Wizard City Shopping District, the jewel vendor, right? So pretty, honestly, you know what? I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back. This is actually not a bad build. Now, like I said, if you don't want to farm for a Tartarus, or if you don't want to use this build, and, you know, like I always say in my healing builds, just do whatever makes you comfortable. As a matter of fact, you can use whatever you want, honestly. As long as you have the spells, you can definitely make this work. Now, if you're someone that's off schooling, the one thing I would recommend is that you have a Mastery Amulet, unless you want to focus on the Arc Mastery, which Arc Mastery is going to give you school pips. You can use either or, but just make sure that you kind of have those, you know, just have the things equipped, especially not fizzling. If you fizzle, then it's going to be a mess. But overall, I'm happy. I am honestly happy. So yeah, that's going to end it for this build. If you guys have any suggestions, I would love to know your comments, because there's a lot of gear out there, but I'm honestly impressed. Maybe I'll make a high-level build free to play in the future, but this is pretty fun. Alright, until then, I will see you guys later. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, until then, I will see you guys later. Peace out.